Welcome back, students, to the next session of A Horse and Two Goats. In the last session, we saw Muni had gone to the shop to get the ingredients for the curry, and in sarcasm, he was snubbed, and so he stood up from there and he came back home. He later informed his wife that scoundrel would not give me anything. That rogue who was sitting in the shop did not give him anything, so he informs his wife that you can take these drumsticks and take them out and sell them for what they are worth. His wife said, well, in any way, you are not getting anything to eat, anything else, for I can't find anything to give you to eat. You better fast till evening, it will do you good. Take goats and be gone now. That is, please take goat and go away right now. She cried and added, don't come back before the sun is dawn. And she says, please don't come back home before the sun set. He knew that if he obeyed her, she would somehow conjure up some food for him in the evening. So he knew that in case if he obeyed her, in case if he listened to what she was saying, he would at least in the evening she will be able to arrange for some food for him. Only he must be careful not to argue and irritate her. So he knew that he should not argue and irritate her. Her temper was undependable in the morning, but improved by the evening. So in the morning hours, she was absolutely in anger, in rage. But in the evening, the scenario changed, and she would be a person who could be handled and who could be soft in the evening. She was sure to go out and work, grind corn in the big house, sweep or scrub somewhere, and earn enough to buy foodstuff and keep a dinner ready for him in the evening. She was sure that she would go out. She was sure that she would go out for her work in that big house, the concrete house, which is the only house in the concrete house available, which is the only concrete house in the village, and when she goes there, she would grind the corn, or she would sweep the floor or clean it somewhere and earn something to buy the foodstuff in the evening, and will be ready and will have a dinner ready for him. Unleashing the goats from the drumstick tree, Muni started out, driving them ahead and uttering weird cries from time to time in order to urge them on. He passed through the village with his head bowed in thought. He did not want to look at anyone or be accosted. A couple of cronies lounging in the temple corridor hailed him, but he ignored their call. So unleashing, that is, releasing the goat from the drumstick tree, Muni started out driving them ahead and uttering weird sound, keeping them, giving them signals to go on. He passed through the village with his head bent down, for he didn't want anyone to approach him or address him. And besides, he knew that people will be sitting on the temple stairs or in the corridor, and they would be calling him. But he was in no mood to talk to them, and so he ignored their calls and moved on. The shopman had said that he was 70. At 70, one only waited to be summoned by God. When he was dead, what would his wife do? They had lived in each other's company since they were children. He had been told on their day of wedding that he was 10 years old and she was 8. Progeny, none. Perhaps a large progeny would have brought him the blessings of God. So he said that when he was reflecting back while he was going for his he was taking his kettle for the graze, he was reflecting back on the old times. He remembered that when he had got married, he was told that he was 10 years old, and he had a wife who was 8 years, and there were no children, no issues. Perhaps if they had issues, probably the blessings of God would have been adorned on them. Only on the outskirts did he lift his head and look up. He urged and bullied the goats until they meandered along to the foot of the horse statue on the edge of the village. He sat on its pedestal for the rest of the day. The advantage of this was that he could watch the highway and see the lorries and buses pass through to the hill, and it gave him a sense of belonging to a larger world. The pedestal of the statue was broad enough for him to move around as the sun traveled up. So till the time he didn't reach outskirts of the village, he did not put his head up. He bullied his goats until they followed a winding course and they reached the statue on the edge of the village. He sat on the pedestal for the rest of the day. The only advantage of this was that he could sit there and watch the world go by, and this would make him feel that he was part of the larger world which existed around in this earth. The pedestal of the statue was broad enough for him to shift his place depending on as the sun traveled in different areas and westwards. Or he could also crouch under the belly of the horse or shade, that he could even crunch himself under the belly of the horse for the shade. The horse was nearly life-size, molded out of clay, baked, burnt and brightly colored, and reared its head proudly, prancing its forelegs in the air and flourishing its tail in a loop. Beside the horse stood a warrior with Sith-like moustaches, bulging eyes, aquiline nose. The horse itself was said to have been as white as dhobi washed sheet and had on its back a cover of pure brocade of red and black lace matching the multicolored sash around the waist of the warrior. But none in the village remembered the splendor as no one noticed its existence. So here we have the description of the horse. It was almost a life size. It was molded and made out of clay, baked, burnt, and brightly colored. At one point of time, besides the horse, stood a warrior with a Sith-like statue, bulging eyes, and aquiline nose, that is a very sharp nose like an eagle. The horse was said to be absolutely in white, which was like the dhobi had washed a sheet, and it had a pure brocade on the back as a cover, and the same kind of slash was put on the warrior who was standing next to it. But when he saw the statue, he thinks about it that nobody actually remembers how did it come to existence and how is it standing here. Even Munni, who spent all his waking hours at its foot, never bothered to look up. Even Munni never bothered to look up at the horse. It was untouched even by the young vandals of the village, who gashed tree trunks with knives, tried to topple off milestones, and inscribed lewd designs on all walls. This statue had been closer to the population of the village at one time when this spot bordered the village. Now, Munni remembers that even since the time he was in this village and he was there, he had never seen anybody even vandal or even destroy this particular statue of the horse. And so even the vandals of the village who used to break the tree trunks, and they tried the knives by toppling over the milestones, inscribed lewd remarks, rude remarks and offensive remarks on the designs on the walls, even they never bothered to touch this horse. This statue had been closer to population of the village at one point of time when this spot bordered the village. That is, when this spot was part of the village, but now the village has drifted a little more further. Munni sat at the foot of the statue, watching his two goats graze in the arid soil among the cactus and lantana bushes. He looked at the sun. It was tilted westward. No doubt, but it was not the time yet to go back home. If he went too early, his wife would have no food for him. Also, he must give her time to cool off her temper and feel sympathetic, and then she would scrounge and manage to get some food. So Muni sat on that statue of that the pedestal which was there on that statue, and kept a look at the two goats which grazed the green and the dry soil, which had cactus and liltana, that is a kind of a tropical bush. He looked at the sun to analyze what the time is, because earlier not everybody had watches, and the time was measured by the movement of the sun. So here too, Muni was looking at the sun, and he knew it was westward, but unfortunately it was not the time to go back home. Besides, he wanted to buy some time so that his wife's temper cools down and she feels a little sympathy towards him, and so that she could manage something to get some food. He noticed now a new sort of vehicle coming down at full speed. It looked like both a motor car and a bus. He used to be intrigued by the novelty of such spectacles, but of late work was going on at source of the river on the mountain, and an assortment of people and traffic went past him, and he took it all casually and described to his wife later in the day everything he saw. So he noticed a new kind of vehicle coming down the road, and it was always a novelty, it was always a curiosity for him to see such kind of a scene. He knew that the work was going on at the source of the river on the mountain, and a lot of people, they had collections of things, and people would move on and traffic past them, and he took it all very casually, but he described all of these things to his wife in the day when he would go back home. Today, while he observed the yellow vehicle coming down, he was wondering how to describe it later to his wife when it sputtered and stopped in front of him. A red-faced foreigner who had been driving it got down and went round it, stooping, looking and poking under the vehicle. Then he straightened himself up, looked at the dashboard, stared in Muni's direction and approached him. "Excuse me, is there a gas station nearby, or do I have to wait until another car comes?" He suddenly looked up at the clay horse and cried, "Marvelous!" without completing his sentence. Muni felt he should get up and run away, and cursed his age. He could not readily put his limbs into action. So today, when he observed this vehicle coming down, he was wondering how he would describe this to his wife, what it was, and in the meantime there was a sudden sound, and right in front of him the vehicle stopped. As the vehicle stopped, he saw a red-faced foreigner who had been driving that vehicle got down. He went around, looking under it and poking under the vehicle, and suddenly he started moving towards Muni's direction. He asks Muni that whether there is a gas station nearby, that is, whether the fuel can be arranged nearby. And without completing his sentence, he looks at the horse and he cries, "Marvelous!" With this kind of an exclamation, Muni felt that he should have run away from there, but he cursed his age, for his limbs were not giving him support to do that. With this, we come to the end in today's session. We'll continue the rest of the prose in the next session. Thank you.